I was really nerding out on the research on this. So I have discovered with myself that there is a certain level of body fat where I feel the strongest and I gain the most strength and I recover the best. And unfortunately, it's a higher body fat percent that I want.
Join the club.
Yeah. So I started researching this because I know through everything that I have learned, through all of the research that I have read over the years, I know that we know that it's difficult to build strength in a caloric deficit. I know for myself that putting on strength when I'm really, really lean is not as easy.
It's an uphill battle.
Yep. And the biggest thing is I don't recover as well. And that is measurable data that I have to prove that on myself. By measuring my heart rate variability. And so anyway, so I started researching this, like, is there an ideal body fat percentage for building strength? And it turns out there is. Yeah. So let's talk about this for a minute. So estrogen, which you might remember back to any of the episodes we've talked about hormones on, estrogen helps with muscle building in women. And we want to have this basically as high as possible in training, like all the time, and still be balanced. We don't want it to be like outside. We don't want it to be above the normal range. We want it to still be in a balance hormone.
With everything else in balance.
Right.
It's quite the game.
Right. So research indicates that between 23 and 27% body fat is the sweet spot for women to build strength because it's where their hormones are the healthiest. They're producing the most estrogen and testosterone during that body fat percentage. So
what if they fall outside?
If they fall outside of that range, whether they are below 23% or above 27%, those hormones drop off. So they're at their peak at 25%.
Yeah.
And so that's just it. When we look at the research, so we always tell you guys to, when you read a research article and they use terms like lean or moderate, find out a numerical value for those terms.
Yeah. Well, you sent me some stuff yesterday and you were like, lean is considered 22% body fat. And I was like, in my mind, that is not lean. Lean is like 16%, the tight skin that's like not barely attached to their body. That's lean to me. But if lean is considered 22%, then, I'm there, but that doesn't make sense to me because I don't feel like that's right.
And why do you think that is?
Because of Instagram.
Right. Because we're constantly bombarded with these images of ultra lean athletes. And so I got to say that an athlete cannot adhere to those levels of like Instagram leanness and expect to have optimal strength gains unless they're using exogenous hormones or they just have completely messed up hormones as a result of staying so lean. So they're walking around either taking exogenous hormones and their hormones are messed up, or they're not taking exogenous hormones, so their strength isn't as high and their hormones are messed up. So it's unrealistic, and it's okay to say that you want to trade some strength for leanness. There's nothing wrong with that. We're not telling you that if you want to have abs and be really lean, go for it. Like, good on you, sister. But it's also okay to say my primary focus is strength. And if that means that at 23% body fat, I don't have abs, then so be it, because I want to win a world championship.
Yeah. Well, and I think something that really helps me, because I do struggle with this, I have more fat than what I would like to have, but I feel good and I recover good. It's not a forever thing. Like I said, I have numbers in mind that I want to hit before I end my weightlifting. And once I've kind of reached the end of weightlifting or the end of wanting to compete in weightlifting, that's the time in my life that I'm going to probably get really lean and probably lose a lot of strength and a lot of muscle. But in that time, I'm going to be okay with it because my goal then will be to feel good and look good. Right now, my goal is to feel good and perform well.
Exactly.
So
Well,
if you have the goal, sorry, didn't mean to interrupt you. If you have the goal of getting strong and you don't particularly love everything that your body has to offer at the moment, like my little muffin top and my little belly, you don't love it right now, but I know it's not a forever thing, and that gives me comfort.
well, but let's just talk about like how realistic that is to have that.
Very realistic.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, right? It's because we spend time on social media, and
Too much time.
whether we probably all do, and whether you are consciously aware of it or not, these images seep into your subconscious, and you start to compare yourself to these images,
Yeah,
and
you
you
start
start to
questioning
think
things.
like, what, right? So I just went through this. I cut a weight class for my last meet, because I wanted to position myself to potentially lift in that weight class at World Championships. So I
Mhm.
had to qualify in that weight class. You can go up a weight class, you can't go down a weight class for
Right.
Worlds. So I'm right. I fell right in the middle of the two weight classes. We're like, well, let's see, number one, how a cut's going to affect my strength.
Yeah.
Let's see what kind of numbers I can put up in
Mhm.
that weight class. And so I cut down to the 148 weight class. And I think it was like halfway through the meet that you, Stacy, and I all decided this is not a good idea.
Yeah.
Well, I will not be lifting in this weight class again. So I loved how lean I was. I was walking around at 153. I water cut to 148 with a 24-hour weigh-in. It was no big deal. I loved how lean I was. I loved how I looked. That's it. That's all I loved about it. I was not strong. I did not feel recovered.
Mm-mm.
I did not feel good. I was not performing well. It was a serious battle. And so after the meet, we said, okay, we're going to go back up to 165.
But that doesn't mean you jump to 165.
I didn't jump to 165. I started eating a little. Now, mind you, I maintained 153 for 2 months going into the meet, 1 month, 6 weeks, something like that going into the meet.
Something like that, yeah.
So I obviously jumped right back to 153, like
Mhm,
for the meet. I was probably 153, 154 the day I lifted. After the meet, I don't think I really counted my macros for a couple of days. I just kind of ate a little bit more intuitively, knowing that after a powerlifting meet, I need a lot more food. So anyhow, my weight jumped to 158, 159. It was really terrifying. I didn't like it. Obviously, that means I was in a caloric surplus, right? That's what that means.
Yeah.
I wasn't totally counting my macros. I would count my macros till about dinner time and then just eat basically as much as I wanted without eating like a complete asshole, just until my body felt good. I was measuring my heart rate variability at that time, and I was recovering really well. I said, okay, I've kind of tipped the scales here. Let's really monitor my food intake. So I was eating at my maintenance macros that I had going into the meet, and my heart rate variability dropped. I was not recovering well, like really not recovering well. I was not, I didn't feel good. I didn't perform well in the gym. I was struggling through training. And so I was like, all right, let's get more food. And immediately my heart rate variability went up in a day, in 1 day. And so then what I found as I really started monitoring this stuff is if I underate on a day, it dropped. If I ate where I was supposed to be eating or where I felt good, it was good. So for me, food is the best piece of recovery that I have.
Yeah. And we forget that.
We forget that. And so what that means then is now I'm 5 pounds heavier. I've settled about 157, 158. I have lost a little bit of that initial fluff over the last 2 months that popped up. But what that means is I don't feel as happy about my body at 158 that I did at 153. It's 5 pounds.
Yeah,
But when I think about it, literally the only thing I liked about my body at 153 pounds was how it looked.
Yeah.
That is ridiculous. for me as a strength athlete to only care about
Mhm.
how my body looks.
But it's also not completely ridiculous just based on what we experience in our day-to-day lives. Like, you're just
Right.
bombarded with this shit.
Right.
And you're told that in order to be an athlete, you need to look good, feel good, and perform good. And if you're not necessarily feeling good about how you look, then are you an athlete? We don't know.
Yeah, there's very confusing messages out there.
Yeah.